empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, August 18th. The year is flying by. We are almost 2 weeks out, almost exactly from the Notre Dame game, the biggest home opener in Ohio State history. We have a ton going on the board. If you're listening to this and it is Thursday, it is Bill Green Bank Chat Thursday, so make sure you get on BuckeyeScoop.com. It's an all-day chat. It's one of our best features. Bank really cranks away all day. He's going to be talking gambling, recruiting, Ohio State football. We had a huge interview with Phil Steele. They went live today, so make sure you check that out. It was fantastic. Phil was awesome. He almost went for 40 minutes. He was going to give us 20, but he was having so much fun. He just kept going, and we talked about handicapping and everything else. It was awesome. So a lot of great content on the Scoop. We are really ramping up as the season is going on. This is kind of like our training camp, so we are really, really going hard for you guys, and we really appreciate all your support. That being said, as always, thank you guys so much for liking the content, subscribing to the channel. It makes a humongous difference in the amount of people that these videos reach. It hits the algorithm wave, and it's unbelievable that when you guys comment and you like the content, how big the videos go. We've had 40,000, 45,000 view videos because of you guys. We really work hard to make sure this content is something you guys enjoy. So thank you guys so much. For this one, we are going to talk about Kam Babb and a bunch of other players, but comment for me, who is your most inspirational Ohio State Buckeye that you've ever followed? Over the last year, if you guys have been following Ohio State for 10, 20, 30, 40, some of you guys 50 years, who's the guy that you're like, man, that was a guy that I really liked watching, seemed like a great person, great kid, great player, because Kam Babb seems to be all of that. So write in the comments, who's your favorite inspirational Ohio State Buckeye? That being said, I'm going to bring in my great friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just got some great news today about Kam Babb, and really excited about that. Put a smile on my face. I've been in a good mood ever since I heard that, and excited to share with people.
Yeah, he obviously we're going to get right into that. It's huge news with Kam Babb. Nevada, get right into it. He's a kid that had a little bit of a scare. Tell us about it, and tell us about what the MRI revealed.
Well, Kam went down, and everybody really feared the worst. I mean, it seemed like a catastrophic knee injury. It seemed like something that was going to be season-ending, potentially career-ending for Kam. And people were just devastated about it. People within the program were devastated, and really were fearing the worst. We tried to not talk about it. We don't like to talk about injuries too much at all, because I just don't feel like that's really appropriate for us to be commenting on. In this case, we got some good news in that the initial prognosis was wrong. It was just a severe knee bruise, and it looks like it's going to be a 1 to 2 week type of operation. Unfortunately, he'll miss the Notre Dame game, which is not that. I mean, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world, compared to the alternative. And he should be back in uniform and playing after that. So, just some great news about a great young man and two-time captain. Guy's got the respect of the coaches, respect of his peers. And I was afraid we were going to get cheated from having a chance to see him on the field this year, but we're going to be able to see that, and very excited to share that with people.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic kid. Obviously, he's a two-time captain. He's been voted a captain twice, despite not playing at all in his career. Recovering from multiple ACL surgeries, it speaks volume to his character. Because for a guy who's literally had zero on-field production to be voted captain twice, it just shows the volume of work he does off the field. In terms of being an inspiration to his teammates, being a positive guy, being a guy that people look up to. Again, not many people are going to stick it out through 3 knee surgeries and keep going. Most guys will take a medical red shirt, but he's not one of those guys. So I'm rooting for the kid. I really hope that he gets a chance to make an impact this year. Who knows how much it'll be? It's hard to count on a guy who's been that snake bit by injuries, but he's an outstanding kid. And I think if he scores a touchdown on the horseshoe, the building might collapse with so much So on to our next guy who really has been making an impact in camp. It's at a position where we need impact players. We've had uh, basically a terrible spell in recruiting. We haven't developed the position well. Um, Chip Trayanum is a guy who is a freakish athlete. Obviously, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, there's a video of him, or there's a photo of him where he literally looks like a Greek god. He is carved out of marble, shredded kid, extremely explosive, was a tailback for Arizona State last year, a really good tailback for Arizona State. He'd probably be as good as, if not better than, Mayan Williams if he was actually a tailback here, but he's converted to linebacker. Nevada, what have you heard about Chip, the role that he could potentially have in the defense? What are you hearing? How big of an impact can a guy who just switched from running back to linebacker make this year?
Well, Chip's a guy who came here with the intention of, making that position switch. He's talked to his advisors, talked to his people, and they feel like his future in the NFL is as a linebacker. And so he came here to, to play linebacker. And, as you said, it seemed like we've been in a little bit of a spell with the linebackers. But, the people that I talked to, I'm not as convinced that it wasn't just having to do with our scheme and our coordination and how people were being coached, as opposed to just us lacking the athletic talent. And I think a guy like Chip, where he's going to get the benefit of Knowles right now, he's going to get the benefit of these other this great scheme that he's going to be playing in. And as you said, he's a physical specimen that can, he could play the running back position. He could play practically any position on the field, and he's looked outstanding. And they're trying to find a role for him, because you've got Steele and you've got Tommy, you've got those first two spots kind of locked in, and Knowles likes those two linebacker looks, but they're trying to find a place for him on the field because he's been outstanding in practice. He's really pushing in fall camp, and he's a guy that's one of my fast movers on our board right now. Just stocked straight up on Chip, and wouldn't be expected to see him, start, but I think he'll certainly make an impact, and I think he'll play a lot against Notre Dame.
Yeah, and he's the guy that has a certain type of explosion that I think is rare in human beings and football players, especially, where when he hits guys, I mean they literally explode. They bounce backwards. It's something like Bob Sanders had that. These guys, Nate Sally had some of that. I mean, he wasn't as twitched up as Chip is, but there's some guys that are just very. Ernie Sims from Florida State had that. They're just explosive hitters, and when they hit guys, they go backwards. I mean, for a guy that we lost in recruiting, Tackett Curtis had that. He would, when he tags a guy, it's like they explode, like they're hit by a cannonball and they go flying backwards. So he's that kind of a hitter. He's very violent. I really love his game. I hope that we can get him pointing in the right direction. And he has 3 years of eligibility left, but he's in year 3, so he is draft eligible. And I'm not saying he'd declare after this year, but once these guys hit year 3, they tune a little bit more in terms of being able to get out of here and go pro and go play in the league. I mean, he came here, it was a business decision. He wants to be an NFL linebacker. He has every attribute you need in terms of speed and physicality, and instincts, but can he produce, at a high, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State defensive type of level? That's what we need out of him. And it's going to be interesting because, I think Tommy and Steele, you can write their names in ink that they're going to start the first game. But, that's just the first game. I mean, Steele Chambers wasn't a starter at the start of the year, and by the end of the year, he was our best linebacker. So it can change in a hurry. I think that if you're in Jim Knowles' good graces, Jim likes tough guys. He likes nasty guys. He likes guys that fly to the football. Chip is that. So he's a guy that, his stock, if you could buy a stock right now, you'd buy his stock and be very happy, I think, when you settle up at the end of the season. As we continue, it is the second week of training camp, the second full week of training camp. They opened, it's almost been 2 full weeks now. The first 4 days were just acclimation period, or they're not in full pads. And then they moved to pads last week. Last week was kind of the really tough week. It was moving to the building Sunday all the way through Saturday. You never get to leave the hotel. Now they're in week 2 of Hell Week. It is Wednesday. The light is kind of at the end of the tunnel. Well, now if you listen to this, it's Thursday. So they've got Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. They get to move out of the hotel. But Ryan Day is keeping the pedal to the metal this week. So talk to me a little bit about what you've heard inside the Woody Hayes during camp. It's still very physical, obviously, with a season-ending injury to Evan Pryor. Has that changed anything, or is Ryan still keeping his foot on their throats?
No, he's still keeping the pedal down. I think he realizes that last year he might have made a little bit of a mistake. Ryan's a young coach, and I think he took it a little bit easy on the team last year, and it kind of reflected in how they're playing. But he's certainly not making that mistake this year. He's pushing on all the coaches to kind of keep it down. He's on Coach Mick about pushing the guys, and I think that everybody talks about how tough the camps are every year. But we talked about it last year about how it was kind of a different approach. I was a little bit more laid back. I was, a little bit more of a family atmosphere, a little less intense. And I think this year is markedly different. When you talk to the players, when you talk to the staff, they all realize this year is much, much different. Now, we'll see if that pays off dividends when it comes game time. But there's no question that Day has made an absolute commitment to a physical camp leading up to a physical presence of the season. And it's in everything they're doing. It's in the way that they're training. It's in the way he's attacking, offensively. And I think that, Ryan Day wants to have a tougher football team. Now we'll see whether he does. It's all right now. It's all just big talk until they get it done. But he's absolutely made a commitment, and camp is not tapered off one bit heading here into Hell Week 2.0.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the toughness aspect, it's just every decision he's made this offseason has been in a manner to help elevate the overall toughness of the program. I think that uh it was turning towards being a soft program last year. I mean, let's call a spade. Against Oregon, we got pushed around. Against Michigan, we got pushed around. Penn State pushed us around, and then Utah pushed us around. Now, we only ended up losing two of those games, but they were probably the two best teams we played last year, and they both beat us. So it was it was the Oregon game was one where we didn't have to go against Kayvon Thibodeau, who was a fantastic player, top 10 pick and their best linebacker, and they had to fly across the country, play in a noon game, which is 9 a.m. body time, which I thought would be an issue. It wasn't. They pushed us all over the field. They out physicaled us, and it was that was a wake up call. That was something where kind of raised an eyebrow that a team from the Pac-12 could come across the country 6 hours and beat the tar out of us in the horseshoe. So that was something we hadn't seen in a while. And I think Ryan needed to right the ship. Then after Michigan happened, there were heads rolling and things had to change. But I think that in terms of the toughness, when you look at the captains he selected, all Iron Buckeyes, all guys that were leaders in the summer. I think that he really placed a premium on toughness over even production. He picked guys like, everyone loves Court Williams. He hasn't really played a lot, but he's a really tough guy. Cade's a tight end, which he's going to have to play a lot this year. He's going to be a starter, but he was a backup last year, and he's a physical. I love Cade as much as any player on the entire team, but he's a guy that as a tight end, you're not going to have a huge role in terms of a receiving production. Now he's going to be a huge role in terms of blocking, but he really wanted tough guys because I think that there was a lack of toughness among the captains last year, and it permeated throughout the team. So when you pick tough guys as captains, they're going to hold guys to different standards than if you pick guys that aren't tough as captains. So moving along, there were some health scares. Denzel Burke in the scrimmage didn't finish the scrimmage, upper body injury. Jordan Hancock has a strain. Nevada, the overall health of the team is always a concern in training camp as you're pushing kids, as you're determining as a coaching staff how hard can you push the team, how physical do you want to be, how much tackling do you want to do. Give us an update on the overall health of the team. Obviously the Kam Babb news was fantastic, but where are we at with some of the other players that are a little dinged up 2 weeks into camp?
Well, I think, what you always look at is if there was a game tomorrow, would everybody play? And I think the answer is yes, obviously with the exception of Cam. But you probably on a scale of 1 to 100, our health is probably a 95, 96 right now, which is outstanding. We've really been able to dodge the injury bug, knock on wood. I hate even talking about that because invariably I'll jinx it. But thus far, it's been a clean camp, relatively clean camp. We're in good shape. We're rounded into form really nicely. Heading into the Notre Dame game, you always like to build up for these things. It's like preparing for a triathlon or something else like that. There's a slow build, and Mick's pointing towards that game is a time when they're gonna peak and they should be ready. And from a health standpoint, we're in good shape right now. So no excuses, and like I said, fingers crossed that it continues on for the next 2 weeks. But we're in good shape as of today.
Yeah, I think you keep your fingers crossed to get us to the game. I think something I learned from Jim Bowman, which is one of the best things I love that he says, you got to get the players to the game. So, all these drills are great and building toughness is great and beating the tar out of these kids, but if they can't make it to the game because they're too you beat them down too bad or they get rolled up in a drill or whatever. And we ran physical camps with Trust. It was tough, but if these guys aren't ready to go for the game, that's something he learned in the NFL, then that's on you. You gotta, and it's like walking a tightrope because you got to get these kids callous up and physically ready to go, but you also got to make sure that they can actually go. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go the next 2 weeks. They're going to probably, I'm sure they'll start doing scout team work on Monday. I'm sure they've already started doing Notre Dame work just because it's such a big opener. The beauty of the first game is that you literally you study that team literally for almost 12 months. It's like you got the breakdowns done last year. As soon as the Oklahoma State game is done, that's in the chute and people are studying it. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, because you're only one or two injuries away from being up the creek in terms of injuries, and thankfully we haven't had outside of a third team running back who was a kid that we were really counting on. We haven't really had that devastating frontline guy go down. So anything you want to add in closing, Nevada? We've had a great week, bunch of great nuggets, bank chat today. Phil Steele interview live. Anything else you want to add to this before we lock this thing down?
No, just we had a great nugget about Missouri and why they're not in the Big Ten and how they ended up in the SEC, and I was fascinated by that. I love reading stuff that I don't know. I like hearing little stories and things, and that was a big story that was always seemed like a really odd thing about how did they end up in the SEC, because Missouri just seems like a classic Big Ten school, and got a great nugget on that. And people, subscribe to BuckeyeScoop.com, read some other stuff, join the community. It's going to be a great year, and just we're having a lot of fun, and just appreciate everybody's support.
Perfect, my man. I appreciate you. We're gonna lock this thing down. That being said, as always, thank you guys so much. Leave us a like, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoyed the show, comment who is the most inspirational Ohio State Buckeye that you have followed, as long as you've supported the team. There's some great ones. Jack Tatum was a great one. For me, I played with a kid named Tyson Gentry. He got paralyzed my junior year. One of the greatest kids ever. Really inspired me my last 2 years. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Who inspires you? Who's been an Ohio State Buckeye? You could even be a coach. You could talk Tress, you could talk Urban. You could talk, Woody Hayes. There's a lot of really good answers. Archie. But we appreciate you guys as always. If you're enjoying this, the message board is absolutely on fire right now. BuckeyeScoop.com. It is the most active message board in the Ohio State sphere. It is very well run, very well moderated. It's a very fun place to be. It's a place where people can have a lot of fun, be themselves, learn a lot of football, talk a lot of football. And the games are coming. And if you guys want to know what's going on inside the Woody Hayes, we are the place to be. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Scoop family. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.